All right, so we're making chocolate chip cookies. So if you look at your recipe, it's broken up by ingredients and directions. So the things you're gonna need are, you're gonna need your butter for ingredients, shortening, in this case we have Crisco, it looks like this. White sugar you'll find in your container. Brown sugar, again, is in the brown paper bag, or not the brown paper bag, the plastic bag. Vanilla, you're gonna have an egg. You're gonna have flour, which is in the canister. You're gonna have salt, which is, ours are orange, in the orange containers. You're gonna need baking soda, so this is the one in the box, not the one in the can. And then chocolate chip cookie, or chocolate chips, so I've got those here. All right, so equipment you're gonna need for this is you're gonna need 2 mixing bowls. You can see that one of mine is a little bigger than the other one, so if you make one a little bigger, that's gonna be better. You've got your dry measuring cups. I've got one of every size for my dry measuring cups. I've got my measuring spoons. I've got a wooden spoon for stirring. I've got a straight edge spatula. I don't know why I have 2, I need 1. And I have a metal spoon for getting the Crisco out of the container. And then I'm gonna need my gallon size bag to put my dough in when I'm all finished, because this lab will take 2 days and we'll have to refrigerate it overnight. All right, so directions. It says, in mixing bowl, cream together the butter, shortening, white, and brown sugar. So for this one, I'm gonna use my bigger bowl to start with. I'm gonna measure my butter. So we've measured butter before, it's broken off into tablespoons. So it calls for 1/3 cup. If you look at here, it says 1/3 cup is equal to 5 1/3 tablespoons. So 5 1/2 is pretty close. So I usually count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 1/2 right there, and I would make a cut. Normally I would use a butter knife, but let's see if this works. I don't think, oh, there it goes. All right, and then this is the butter I need. This butter can go back on the table or back in the fridge. You don't need this little half, you only needed the 5 1/2 tablespoons. So the next thing it says to add is shortening. So this is what a shortening looks like here. We're using Crisco. It calls for 1/3 cup. Don't try to stick the measuring cup, the dry measuring cup, right inside the container. It's gonna make a big mess. So first find your 1/3 cup, which is right here. And then this is why I have a metal spoon. Don't stick this in, it's gonna make a huge mess. So you take your spoon and you're gonna push it into the measuring cup. That's probably good. And then you're gonna take the back of the spoon to level it off. You don't wanna get too much or your cookies are going to be too greasy. All right, so once you've got that, obviously you cannot go like this, doesn't come out. So you're gonna take your spoon again, you're gonna put it through, get it out, and then put it on the side of the bowl. We've got butter, we've got shortening. That's our fat, that's what's gonna hold our cookies together. If your cookies are too dry, you add more fat. You never add water. I don't know why people think to add water, but you never add water. So next is going to be sugar. So the first sugar says brown sugar. It calls for 1/2 cup of brown sugar. You're gonna pack the brown sugar like you did in the last lab. So I've got my 1/2 cup. I put it in my plastic bag. I keep the brown sugar in the bag and I'm gonna pack it. So I'm gonna take my hand and I'm gonna push on top of it, not touching the brown sugar, I'm touching the outside of the bag. And I'm gonna pack it down so that when I flip it over, it kind of looks like a sandcastle. That's how much brown sugar you need, my 1/2 cup. And then the last one was white sugar. So I'm gonna close up this, make sure the air's out and it closes up tight. I don't want it to dry out because it's kind of like a sand. And if it dries out, it gets really hard and then it won't work. So the next one is sugar. I'm gonna take my 1/2 cup again. And this time I need my straight edge spatula to level off. Gonna measure my 1/2 cup, level it off so that I don't have too much, and add it to my bowl. Now it says to cream together. So if I was at home and I had a mixer, I would use a mixer at this point, but we don't have a mixer at school because we just don't have them. So we're gonna use our hands. So I'm gonna break apart that brown sugar that was up. I'm gonna try to like break apart that butter with my wooden spoon. So now I'm switching over to my wooden spoon. Break it up into smaller chunks. Same thing with the Crisco or the shortening. And then I'm gonna stir. And when you cream together, kind of looks more like cream cheese when you're finished. You're gonna make it so that you can't tell the difference between the butter and the sugar and the shortening. And you're gonna keep stirring. It's gonna take a minute, get it off the edge of the spoon. If you were at home and had a mixer, it would be faster, but we don't have one here, so we're gonna use our hands. Use our arm strength. All right, we're getting there. All right, as you can see, because my bowl's kind of glass, you can see through it. It's starting to come together. Keep mixing. So once it starts looking like this, I'll pick it up so you can see. Now you can't tell the difference between the butter, the sugar, and the Crisco. It all seems to be one, like kind of looks similar to like cream cheese. The bowl's pretty much just got butter in it. You can see that there. So when it looks like this, you're done mixing. It's gonna take a little bit. Try to get all of that butter and sugar off the spoon. And we're gonna move on to the next step. So the next one is to use our next mixing bowl. It says, oh, no, I forgot to add the vanilla and the eggs. I'm still using this one. So then it says, once it's creamed together, so once it looks like this, add vanilla and egg and mix till fully combined. So vanilla is here. It says I need 1 teaspoon of vanilla. So make sure teaspoon is a lowercase t or TSP, depending on which ones you have. I'm gonna measure over the bowl if you think I mean, the vanilla comes out fast, so be careful. You don't want too much. Vanilla smells amazing, but without it being baked into cookies, it tastes disgusting and bitter. Nobody would taste it anyways because we're all wearing masks. And then the last thing is the egg. If you feel like you're not good at cracking an egg, you can crack it into a separate bowl. I'm gonna crack it right into this bowl. All right, and then I need to mix that together, so I can't. When you mix this together, it's gonna get thinner, so you're not gonna be able to lift it out of the bowl like I did before with the spoon. All right. The faster you mix it, the creamier it's gonna get. Try to keep it inside the bowl. So it's gonna be not as thick as it was before. It gets a little thinner because I added that egg. So when this one's done, now it says add to your next mixing bowl. So I'm gonna leave that here, go to my smaller mixing bowl. It says to add flour, salt, and baking soda. So the first thing I wanna do is add my flour. So inside your flour, there's a scoop inside of it. Please use the scoop to scoop the flour into the measuring cup. You don't want packed flour. If the flour packs into the measuring cup, your cookies are gonna be too dry. So it calls for flour, 1 3/4 cup. So I've got my 1 cup to start. So I'm gonna take my 1 cup, put it over here, and I'm just gonna spoon it in so it's not packed. I wanna lightly place it into the measuring cup, take my straight edge spatula and level it off so that I have a nice amount. This flour is not packed, so this one's perfect. All right, next it calls for 3/4 cup. In the school kitchen, we don't have a 3/4 cup, we just don't have one. So you have 2 options. You can use the 1/4 cup, which I don't actually have. Hold on, I grabbed the wrong ones. All right, so 3/4 is equal to either 3 of these, so you can use 3 of the 1/4, or if you do 1/4 plus 1/4, it gives you a half. So I've got my half cup right here, so I can do a half plus a 1/4, and this is also equal to 3/4. I'm gonna do this one, just so I don't have to do this one 3 times. So I'm gonna do the half plus the 1/4 to equal 3/4. So I'm gonna spoon it in again, level it off, add it to my bowl, switch. Got another measuring cup, my half cup. See how I do it over the container so it doesn't get all over the countertop, and then level it off again. And now I've got 1 3/4 cup of flour. Next, it calls for a half a teaspoon of salt. So I've got my teaspoon, 1 teaspoon, I've got my salt. I'm gonna measure over the garbage. Actually, I'll measure over this, I don't need this anymore. I'm gonna measure over this measuring cup. So I've got my teaspoon, I fill it up with salt. I'm gonna also level this off. I don't wanna get too much salt. That would alter the recipe and alter the taste, which you don't wanna alter the taste. And then a half a teaspoon of baking soda. Half a teaspoon. So there's two options here. You can take it and you can drag it across the top and that's gonna level it off. Or you can take it and you can level it over a container so it doesn't make a mess. And then that's gonna give you a half a teaspoon too. So half a teaspoon. Baking soda, the reason I add this to our cookies is so it's a leavening agent. They rise a little bit in the oven. They don't kind of flatten out. Now, don't add too much sugar. So I measure the sugar correctly. If you measure the sugar incorrectly, your cookies won't turn out. It won't make them any sweeter. What happens is they don't keep their shape and they melt all over the bottom of the oven, and then they're on the bottom of the oven and they turn into like caramelized sugar. It's a complete mess. So make sure you're measuring everything correctly. Don't see, oh, I'm gonna add more sugar because I like my cookies sweeter. It doesn't work that way. All right, so now I'm gonna stir this together. See, it says add the flour, salt, and baking soda mixed together. Then it says to slowly add the dry ingredients into the wet ingredients. So now here's my dry ingredients. I've stirred them with my wooden spoon. And now I'm gonna slowly add them into here while I mix. The more flour I add, the harder it gets to mix. So I'm gonna take maybe a third of it, take my wooden spoon, stir, just until all my flour is mixed in there. All right, once all that flour is mixed in, you can add some more. I'll just add the rest and do it in half. You want to stir so that you can't see any more flour. It's going to get harder to stir the more flour you add, but use your muscles. All right. The last thing it says is to then add the chocolate chips. So I have the chocolate chips already measured. They're going to be in these little glass containers. Add all of the chocolate chips in and stir it together. When you're done, I'm going to take it out of the bowl so you see what it looks like. If at any point this seems too dry or you cannot pick it up without making a huge mess because it's too liquidy, you've done something wrong. So if you've done something wrong and it's way too dry, it means you added too much flour or you forgot to add the Crisco or the egg or the butter. So you would have to add at that point a fat. If it is way too liquidy, you definitely have mismeasured the flour or you mismeasured the liquid ingredients. All right, so when I take it out of the bowl, I can kind of take it between my hands and it doesn't stick to my hands at all, all right? It stays its shape, it keeps its form. The bowl is pretty much clean. I've got most of it out of that bowl. Use your hands to get the rest of it out. If you have done it correctly and it's not a huge mess on both hands, you can then take it and put it in your bag. Before you put it in your bag, it's got to be labeled with your group members' names because it's going to go in the refrigerator with everybody else and it all looks the same. So I've got my gallon-sized bag. I've got my dough that looks correct. I'm going to put it in here. I close it up and I put it in the fridge and I would clean up. All your stuff goes in your dish pan. You wash it into the sink. Now, I'm going to pretend that I refrigerated this and I'm going to go on day 2. So it takes 2 days. So the second day you come to class, you are going to, it makes 24 cookies, no more than 24, no less than 21, even size. Do not spray the pan. When I give you the pan, there'll be parchment paper on it. Do not spray the pan, no cooking spray. I'm not putting the cooking spray out. It'll be too much grease, the cookies will run everywhere. When you do this, first, before you put them on the trays, you're gonna roll them into balls, okay? The ball should be about the size, I don't know, of like an okay, kind of you put your finger and your thumb together. And that's the size they should be. It makes 24 cookies. So if you make 21 cookies, that's fine. If you make 22 cookies, that's fine. But somewhere between 21 and 24. Do not put 15 cookies on the tray and say, I'm ready for the oven. They all have to be the exact same size. Do not do this. Do not make a cookie that's this size and a cookie that's this size. This will be undercooked. This will burn. This will make a mess in my oven. So please make them all the same size. You should have 24, but again, if you've got 23 or 22, that's fine. But somewhere between 21 and 24, all right? No, you cannot bake one giant cookie. I've had that question asked many times. They cook for 8 to 10 minutes. On average, because of the ovens we have, it's around closer to 10 minutes. So they've got to be in the oven in the first like 25 minutes of class so that we make sure we have time to take them out. When you take them out of the oven, pull that oven rack out so that you don't tip the tray, because if you tip the tray, cookies are now on the bottom of my oven and they're no longer on the tray. And then that's the end of it. Then you get to eat them and we're all done. Thanks.